Hey all, welcome back. Hope you're all doing well, feeling well, helping each other, taking care of yourself, all that stuff. So here's another video. This one is important. Well, they're all important, of course they are, because this one tells you pretty much what I'd like you to do for your last essay. There is a period of time, I forget when it is. I think they wrote it down. Finals week, as they would call it, would be somewhere there between the 16th and the 22nd, but they're not scheduling a particular day and time for every class to take the final. So normally what I do is I wait until that day. We all show up on the day and I give you the assignment, and you all just bring your computers and everything and you do it in the classroom, upload it to Blackboard, and we're done. This time we're going to treat it just like we would all the other essays that we've done for the semester. We're going to just talk about it I'm about to, and then we're going to have ideas sent into the discussion board. Then we'll have intros with your thesis into the discussion board, and then you're going to upload the final essay all over the next couple of weeks. So that's it. There are no more rewrites. There are no more essays to submit except for this last one. So let's put all our focus on this. So here's what I'm thinking. Okay, now I know we've been talking about rhetoric, we've done description, we talked about narrative, we did comparison and argument. All of these things are kinds of ways of writing an essay. Definition is the one we've been focusing on the last couple of weeks, with a couple of essays from the book and essays that I've given you links to. So you get a sense of having to explain what something means. And that's really all I want to remind you about there. Description is using those elements to get a point across. Narration is using a story of some kind. A comparison is trying to find a connection, whether it's common or not, between two persons, places, things, and ideas. So we have all these elements of thinking about how do I deal with what I'm trying to say. Don't forget, folks, everything you're doing is just trying to get an idea across in the best way that you can. And that takes work a little bit of thinking, some writing, some practice with the language, some organization, and it takes some rhetoric, some of the things that we've been talking about. So instead of having everybody pick their own topic, which I've been doing all semester, this time I'm going to tell you, at least in general terms, that I'd like you all to deal with this one general idea, which is this pandemic, this coronavirus thing that we are all dealing with. So let me explain my thinking. Generations, all kinds of generations over the years, especially in the last 100 years, some of them have been given names. Okay, very, very quickly, back in the early part of the 20th century, there was a small group of people who represented the generation of the early part of the century, and they were known as the lost generation. They weren't happy with the way the country was going. They saw us headed towards war and economic difficulties, and didn't like the way things were in terms of their dealing with religion and all kinds of things. And these groups of people got up and left the country. They went to Europe, they went to Paris, and it turns out they did a lot of great things. They had a lot of great paintings and poetry and novels and dance and all kinds of essays and things. A lot of great things came out of that expatriate, let me leave the country because I don't like it anymore kind of group. But they reacted because they reacted to what was happening to them in the country, as a country acting on a group of people. You fast forward a couple of years, maybe 20 years or so, 30 years, and you have what's known as the Beat Generation. They're a group of people, again, mostly men in this case, who now it's not what they were worried about was happening, but what's coming before them, but they're tired about what came before. They grew up right out of World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, and various things like that. And they were not happy with America either. And they didn't like things like stupid TV, and women's rights needed to be addressed, segregation needed to be addressed, and they didn't like the fact that we had the atom bomb, and they didn't like all kinds of other things, politicians and all nonsense like that. And so they didn't leave the country. They just decided to rebel and sort of not work very much. They got little jobs, they got gas money, they stayed with each other's friends, and they kept driving back and forth from New York to San Francisco. East Coast, West Coast, East Coast, West Coast. And one of them wrote a great book called On the Road. You can imagine them traveling. But they were a different bunch. They were into listening to jazz. They liked to stay up late. They smoked cigarettes. They were free. They didn't have regular jobs. They were known as beatniks. They used to go to college campuses and read poetry, and they were very, very controversial. They would use foul language, and they would curse and swear, and they would insult the politicians and the leaders of the time. And so they were reacting again to the culture at the time, what was happening. They were a result of that. Not very soon after that were the hippies. That's where I come in, and they were also angry. Not angry. They were upset with the Vietnam War, women's rights, segregation, the atom bomb, the environment, all kinds of things. And so you know about them. They were into peace and love, and they wanted to, demonstrate against all of this. And they smoked a lot of weed, and they did demonstrations, and music was a big thing with them. Lots and lots of new, what's now known as, modern, what is it called? Classic rock music and things like that. And you've had little movements after that, but nobody's given them, and they were, of course, the peace and love generation. So you've got certain generations that get a name, but a lot of them are different. After that, you got the Generation X, Generation Y, you got the millennials, and now I think you've got Generation Z. But none of those names mean anything in terms of the actual language. I mean, what does Z mean? My point here is that generations, and you guys, most of you anyway, some of you are older than others, but most of you are in that 17 to 22 age group. That's what I generally have in my classes as freshmen, are a particular group, the pop culture group. You're right there at formative ages, and all of you lots of you come from different cultures too. But you are particularly different than the culture that your parents were growing up in, and your grandparents, and me. And certainly you were different than your older siblings and younger siblings. You have a different point of view on things. And that's simply because of when you were born and the age you are now. You didn't do anything, you just happened to be here. Now, this is where we come into the essay assignment. Everybody is dealing with this coronavirus pandemic. And more specifically, I'm thinking about the way we are feeling about how we're reacting to it. Quarantining, sequestering, social distancing, wearing gloves, wearing masks, Zooming like this, whatever, the videos, chats, and things with families everywhere. Maybe even writing letters, sending more emails. And what are you doing now? I mean, how after the first couple of weeks go by, you can't just sit around and watch TV all day and eat. So are you doing other things? Are you feeling other ways? Lonely, secure, frightened, angry? All of these terms, on a given week, you could experience all kinds of emotions. Is it too close, physically close in your house? Because suddenly you're home all the time and mom and dad are here, husbands and wives, children, everything. They're all there all the time. You love them dearly, but sometimes you want your own space. So, the final assignment is for you to write about how this pandemic is affecting you. And here's the thing about rhetoric and language. By you, I mean not just you personally, because that can get to be a silly essay, like, oh, I hate those masks, I don't like those gloves, blah, blah, blah. It's you as a person in this particular culture that is responding. How do you think, what is life like in a pandemic? When they come back years from now and talk about your generation, for instance, as having experienced this, will this be a determining factor? In other words, are you being defined by this pandemic, or do you feel it's just something, it's just a blip on the screen, and we'll forget about it? There are a lot of people who think that no matter how long it takes before we get back to normal, whatever that is, that things will be different. And again, those of you who are thinking about how do I write an essay that deals with definition, well, any of the words I've just used can be defined. What does it mean to be quarantined? What does it mean to feel sequestered? How do I feel about this? Social distancing, what does it mean? What does normal mean? And other terms that I've just used about space and being close to and all that stuff. So you can discuss this, because let's face it, we're all are experiencing the same overall thing, which is this pandemic, but we may all be responding to it in a variety of different ways. I, for instance, I'm doing okay. I sort of miss being out and socializing more, but I've got a lot of things to do. Certainly I've got plenty of books to read, and I've got my guitars to play, and I've got, other things to keep me busy. So I've got stuff to do. I'm not bored. I don't watch too much TV. I watch a little bit, so but I'm sort of enjoying the downtime. But I'm sure some of you are going batty out there, with families that are all chock full together in the house in small apartments and kids running around, and, all I can imagine, especially if you have to share a room, for instance, or whatever. So this all, and it's not just those particular things, but overall, like when this is all done, will we go out as much? Do you feel like it matters? Have you changed the way you think about things as a result of being sequestered for almost 2 months? Do you see things differently? Do you suddenly not don't care about TV anymore, or you discovered playing chess or reading a book or whatever it is? So it's those overall thinking. I think we can use all of the rhetoric that we've discussed. Certainly this can be described. Certainly this can be compared to life before it and now, and maybe what you predict will be after this. And certainly defining what it means to be a 19-year-old person or a 20-year-old person or a single mom or something like that in a pandemic. What that means to you, not just the practical things you have to get through every day, like getting to the supermarket and changing the kids' clothes and cooking a meal. I mean mentally, emotionally, psychologically, psychically, that kind of effect it's having. I'm not talking about, oh God, I gotta go out and see if I can get toilet paper and eggs. That's not the answer. It is interesting, for instance, that toilet paper was the first thing to go off the shelves. Gotta wonder what that even means. Anyway, this is what I want this first paper to be about. This last paper, rather, to be about. Okay? I hope that was clear. And certainly we have time. You can email me for further clarity. Maybe I'll even have to make another video. But basically, it's a particular focus on this particular time that we're in. But your own view of this is what I'm looking for you to be reflective about and think about. I mean, this is like a little bit of art. You're trying to give us. Imagine what you're going to write is going to be read 50 years from now. what you said about this. Let's like to hear what that is. So here are the dates. Okay, here's what we're going to be looking at. All right. So write these things down. I'm going to put them on the discussion board right away. So I'd like ideas, just general ideas, a single sentence or two about what you intend to be addressing specifically in this paper. I'll put that up. I want those up no later than the 3rd, which is I think Saturday, or no, whatever it is, Monday, Sunday, coming up in a few days. The intros, I'll get back to those right away. And you can start sending me these things now, okay? The intros with your thesis, they should be sent to me no later than the 8th of May. Ideas no later than the 3rd. Introductions no later than the 8th. I'll spend some time getting back to all of your intros. And then the final draft of this essay, the last essay for this semester, should be uploaded absolutely no later than the 16th, which is the first day of finals week. Not the 17th, not the 18th, the 16th. You can always send it before the 16th, okay? But no later than. So there it is, the 3rd, the 8th, the 16th. Ideas, intros with theses, and the final draft. Okay, boys and girls, that's it. I don't know whether there'll be another video. This may be my last video for the semester for you guys. If not, who knows? Maybe I'll do another one just for the say goodbye and all that stuff. But this is also one-on-one, so maybe I don't know we don't know. We haven't gotten our schedules yet for the fall. So if I'm teaching English 102, maybe you'll be in my class. Normally I teach English 102 in the fall and the spring, so I don't know, look for it, see what happens, and if we may be online, we may be doing live Zooming, we may be actually in the classroom. I don't know yet, nobody seems to know. In the meantime, this is the assignment for the last essay. I'll probably send out one more video just to wrap things up. Anyway, peace everybody.